thought process. So weekly, obviously we're starting to get some commitment after last week, which is nice because obviously we were talking about two scenarios for such a long time. You know, are we going to take out all of this on the more daily IRL because we had demand in control? I'll go to the daily. We had demand in control. We were still reacting from areas to the left, still failing these areas to the left as IRL or CPBs. We were still respecting demand basically all the way up, and this chain was effectively the line in the sand that I wanted to see break to start looking for further downside targets. Obviously, if you've been in the New York talks, you'll know what I mean by that. Obviously, we progressed even further higher first, continued to break structural highs, printing higher highs. We hadn't quite taken out the final piece, which we also talked about the possibility of if we don't take out all of the IRL, it's a good chance that leg will be the pullback phase, because in a pro trend leg, you'll take out all the IRL, the ERL. On a counter trend leg or a pullback phase, you won't always take it out because we're bullish, we'll have IRL within here. You may take some of it out. If you're in a sell, the idea would be to target it all, but we may just hit this point, maybe a flip from here or something, and then continue because we're bullish overall. So the pullback phase won't always take it all out. And so it's something to keep in mind when you see something like this. We've not taken it all out. We can go with that premise that we will until something changes. And then from this point here, we mentioned last week on the outlooks as well, the fact we reacted from this last point of demand prior to that break and then respected the supply and then continued. And so depending on how you drew your chain, we could have argued that it's been breached because we basically broke this area here. So if we just follow that chain along, we've reacted to demand, failed demand, respected supply. This is also a reaction to this chain and then the failure of the chain. So it's whether or not we're going to target now the rest of this IRL here, meaning this is the structural swing low that took out the high and printed a new higher high. So are we just taking out all the IRL here in terms of targets to the downside, or are we actually we've broken this chain? In fact, we're going to target the entirety, which is obviously what it looks like it's happening now. And so last week we talked about that possibility. We have the extreme being this chain, we had the decisional being here. So maybe it was 2 weeks ago because I was away last week, but the idea was the longs to play into this supply here, look for sells from here or here. From a long scenario, it would be if demand took back control, do we have any cause for higher prices? We've not really broken this chain, so there's not really any targeted IRL. And so from a 4-hour perspective, I was on a call, I can't remember if I was on this call or a call with someone, but I remember talking about this bit of PA, the fact we'd broken the supply, we'd held demand here. And so we'd had cause for higher prices being this high here, whereas we've already taken out the IRL below this supply chain. So from a target perspective, longing somewhere in here to target this makes sense, but anything further, it's a bit more difficult because we've already taken this out and now we're into that supply chain with the sell narrative, because we're kind of caught between two higher time frame ideas really. Like, have we broken this chain to target it all, or are we still respecting the structural swings, in which case from here demand takes control and we print a new bullish leg to take this out. And so what's nice now is obviously this supply chain was respected, we continued taking this out, and so the narrative's become much clearer in terms of direction at least. Like I said, the arguments for both sides makes a lot of sense, but obviously just go off the information you have at the time. So okay, if you've got a short-term reason to long in here because you can target this high, and then if it wants to continue even further, great. And the same with this, if you've got reasons to short here because we're within this, you still have the remaining IRL that we talked about last week down here, and so you can still take the trade both sides. Obviously the targets might be a little bit more of a question mark, where can you target, but to take the trade, to get trading in that direction, it's always possible. And so so it looks like at the moment at least that we could be printing that lower high on the monthly, because printing that lower low, come up into this area. This could be our new lower high to eventually do this. Obviously it's a monthly time frame, so it took a long time for that to play out, but now on the weekly, the same thing. We talked about it as well, where we've got the break of structure here are we going to target that IRL with demand and control? Well, now we've broken that chain. We've not taken that out. This could be now our weekly lower high to do this. So this being the pullback phase, this being the pro trend move. It's looking more likely at the moment. And just to kind of touch on it, we are within this window of imbalance, but it doesn't mean that I'm concerned with shorting through it. It just means, you know, if we're getting some reactions here, we can kind of justify, you know, why. We're not just kind of in no man's land. We are in this area. Maybe this just pulls us back a little bit, you know, into this kind of weekly supply. If we come that far, obviously we can refine these to the daily. If I just move this, refine these to the daily. We've got this one, more of a favorable one to be honest than this one, but also obviously we've got the 4 hour to use as well, which is kind of why I'm looking at the current bit of PA. But yeah, this effectively reacted from here, so that proved itself to be a CBB because now it has failed, and we kind of have this decisional area, which, you know, it isn't the best of POIs because it's a nice area of interest to look at how we react on the intraday. But I mean, from just a POI, like this is a 1 minute chart, I wouldn't want to take a sell from this because it's not a flip, it's just a doji, it's not done anything. Whereas this is a flip, it's taking liquidity, it's part of the chain. You know, the 1 minute entry model, this would be the one you'd choose. So the same on the daily, this is the better POI. It's just whether or not we pull back that far, because this can easily just continue with the momentum, you know, take out this and eventually break this, which would be nice, obviously. Yeah, maybe not from a pound strength perspective, but from a chart analysis perspective. So yeah, this now, any longs at this stage, obviously we are reacting from here, but any longs I'm thinking about more as the short term, at least just based on the information we've got supply and control, we've got more targeted liquidity from the weekly. Like I said, we didn't take all this out, this could be our weekly / monthly lower high, and so until we see something change, whether we pull back deep, any longs I'm considering to be the pullback phase. So like we got this 4 hour here, the dailies. So this is the favorable one, but it's just that it's such a big retracement. So yeah, to kind of play up into that area, you'd want to see, you know, clear evidence of demand and control, and then you've got targeted liquidity to then play that pullback. Whereas at the moment we've not got demand and control, we've just kind of got this bit of movement up. So yeah, I don't want to suggest that we're definitely coming here. So I'll be happy if we get some sells from here. I'll be happy to still take them, but just being aware that we could come higher just based on the daily. But yeah, that's kind of my thought process on that. And then this 4 hour, this initial kind of pullback here, again, it's coming out of the window of imbalance. There was some potential, I talked about on the outlook on Monday about looking for longs to play that pullback, and just kind of the risk with it when you've not got any clear targets. This is why I always talk about calls for higher or lower prices. When you're playing a pullback phase, like if you're bearish, you don't know how big this pullback phase is going to be. This can just be a small one and continue. And so if you're looking for longs, there's always that risk that it won't pull back as far as you want, because maybe you want it to come here and that's your intention, but unless you've got something to tell you that it will, then there's nothing to kind of suggest that it should. Like if you've got IRL to target, you've broken the initial piece and you've got demand and control, or then you've got a target in mind for how big that pullback phase can be. Like you've got the rest of the IRL to target. So then if you play along from here, you're not guessing on the, you know, the distance of the pullback. Same way if you've got a weak high, like in this case, this would be your weak high. If you're playing longs from here, this is confirmed. I mean, ideally you have, you know, both, but it doesn't really matter if one or the other. Maybe you don't have a weak high, you just have IRL, or maybe you just have a weak high, you don't have IRL, but you've got a target in mind for how big that pullback can be. And it's a confirmed target, like you've got demand and control going towards weak supplies or weak highs. Whereas in this case, we didn't really have that, we just had order flow, right? And so yeah, we came out of the window of imbalance and we had, you know, reactions to supply here. Bit of a complex pullback, broke the reaction point. Again, not really broken the overall supply yet, but we've broken the reaction point, so depending on how comfortable you are with that. what we are doing is respecting demands, continuing to break, and obviously eventually we actually broke the supply. So maybe from a targeted point of view, you could think about the 15-minute point of view like this IRL within here, in which case, it makes complete sense from a 15-minute target point of view. But from like a 4-hour, if this is a higher time frame pullback, we've not got any higher time frame target. There's no weak high on the higher time frame. There's no IRL. So in the outlook on Monday, I talked about knowing how big the pullback phase will be, or playing a safer pullback would be, for example, something like this, where we come into this low and then we get our shifts and longs within here. Then you've got a reference point of a target. You've got this, what would be a weak high. Whereas at this time here, we're just kind of simply playing order flow, which is counter trend. So we don't know how big this pullback phase will be. It's hard to have a reference point, apart from just hoping it comes here, because this is where you want to short from. And so yeah, so like obviously we've got demand in control, which is great. We've got the reaction to supply here, the subtle sweep. So a nice flip, failure, get my chain in from this area here. And so as we're coming into, London, based on the situation of the chart, it doesn't really make sense to short because we're not in anywhere. So overall we want to short because of the trend, but just based on the order flow, it's clear that we're in that pullback phase. So it's just whether or not you want to, again, look for longs to play the pullback without maybe a clearer target. Obviously, you probably go for this, but I mean, in terms like a weak high or IRL or something, or wait for the sell setup, which again, ideally, you'd probably want it from here. Would be preferable, but effectively, we continued from here, continued to the upside, and then anything to the left here, you can treat as IRL or CPBs until proven otherwise, right? So like at the time, because you've got demand in control, this supply is below our higher time frame. I'd rather treat it as a CPB until something changes or until proven otherwise. And so at this stage here, we get the reaction to it. We get the failure of the reaction point. We don't quite break the zone, but again, depending on how comfortable you are with the flip, like the reaction failures, this could make sense as a flip. And so when I was choosing the POIs on Monday, it was like, okay, well, for longs, I've only really got these two. Just move that a minute. I've only really got these two that I want to consider for longs. And so obviously this one's part of the chain down here. We've got the flip from here. This one's kind of, it's in no man's land, it's doing nothing. So my theory was that if this breaks this without giving an entry, from this zone or from the sweep of this zone, I don't really want a long from here. I'd rather have that as just remaining liquidity to fill the void into the chain. Obviously I talked about this on the outlook. And so yeah, there was no long that presented from this. And then again, the one from here was never interested from the start. And then from here, obviously, which blew through anyway. And so then it just gave us more clue as to, what was happening. Obviously, we knew the longs were short-term thinking because it was a pullback phase. Again, ideally, we'd come at least to here. We never know how big the pullback phase will be. At least when you've not got a reference point like a weak high or something, or IRL on the same time frame of the pullback, it's hard to know, again, how big it will be. And so just going off that point of view, happy to long if we got the setup. It didn't come. Same with this, it didn't come. Obviously we had news, quite volatile. And then at least it gave us more clue for the rest of the day. So obviously we took out all of this. We pushed back up into this supply here. And so if you're going to look for sells from here, again, I wouldn't consider this to be a confirmed CPB. I wouldn't consider it to be a confirmed strong supply either. It's just a supply. Like what it's going to be, the purpose behind it is hard to determine because we've not really got demand in control anymore because we've just breached all of these demands. We've not got supply in control really because we've not seen supply hold yet after a demand failure. This is effectively the first supply, or this one as well, but again, it didn't hold. So if you're going to look for sells post news, I'd say just to use a double confirmation because the order flow hasn't confirmed. We're not trading from a higher time frame zone, anything like that. Just make sure you can still hear me. Cool. Yeah, so obviously there was a setup from kind of Wise's newer 15-minute approach that he talks about here. Obviously it's not really something I'm focused heavily on, but it's the same theory as the narrative being built, the 15-minute entries, but it's obviously it's the retracement candle or the engulfing to kind of play the 1 minute without playing the 1 minute within here. But basically on the 1 minute, if you were, you know, comfortable using the 1 minute, there was potentially some continuation models in here. It wasn't the best in terms of getting clear reactions to the left. Obviously we do have, you know, if we look at the zones that we do have this on the 1 minute here, so we do get that reaction to it. We have this 1 minute chain, so once that fails, if there's going to be an entry point as a continuation, this, you know, it's fairly decent. The fact we're just playing from this as a 15-minute trade idea, this is effectively back in alignment pro trend. We've got the break of demand, this would be our floor, and then again, if you use the wicks, like I always, you know, mention about using the wick, the last point of demand prior to the mitigation to justify the order flow. Once that breaks, you know, something I've always talked about, these L pods with the wicks. Once that breaks and you're at this point, you've got supply and control based on how I'm looking at the order flow. And so not only that, you've also now got a confirmed weak low. So if you're playing continuations in here, you know, if you do get the setup, you're going towards a weak low, pro order flow, pro trend. And so the narrative's really good. And obviously the retracement engulfing that Weiss talks about, it aligns the same way with these wicks. Obviously there's been talk about the wicks in the past, you know, is it aggressive or whatnot, but it's really not, because you're confirming this zone rather than just, you know, slapping a limit on this zone, if that makes sense. And so yeah, if you, once this blue line's broken and now you get the continuation model, you can play the single confirmation anyway, or the continuation, because you pro order flow. You're no longer up here without confirmed order flow. So yeah, perfectly good entry based on, you know, however you want to interpret the chart, like that, like the way I described and try and always describe, or the 15-minute stuff. You've got confirmed course flow at prices, confirmed order flow, pro trend. So it's a decent trade for sure. Obviously, what would make it better if it came out of this? But yeah, fairly decent. Again, the longs were short term. Because I'll go to the 1 minute over here. There wasn't. So these were the two zones. This one or this one. No entry. No entry. So again, using the 1 minute, it's not to be aggressive and take small stops. It's to confirm the zone. Like if you've got a 50-minute entry here, that's a loss, or 50-minute entry here, again, that's a loss. It's not about being aggressive with small stops. It's about just confirming the zone. And so this method of engulfing candles on the 15 is just another way you can confirm the zone. So instead of doing this, what, you know, Wise is saying, wait for the engulfing. But yeah, effectively, you come to the same conclusion. And so I'll just play price on a little bit, because there wasn't really anything else throughout Monday. Does this make sense? Obviously, I've just waffled. Oh, nice. Yeah, so yeah, the one just prior, Foxy, nice. Awesome. Yeah, so I'll just go up to the 4 hour. So obviously we came down towards the end of Monday, we hit this zone now, so we hit more of an actual zone, whereas before, obviously Monday was just kind of in the window of imbalance. There wasn't really specific zone. Jesus, I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, so coming into Tuesday, hit this zone again. I talked about this with someone yesterday about the candle. So let's just skip this ahead one because I want to talk about this. We were here and we'd just taken out, you know, the previous daily low and also this low here coming into this CPB. So the idea effectively was we've just taken out all of this liquidity below these lows. You can expect some bullish, you know, some bullish price. Just do we pull up into this supply, given the fact that we've not, it's not really a strong high, the fact it didn't break with the body, or do we take out this high and come up into this? I don't mean this beef, I mean the initial move. So those were the kind of the questions. Okay, well, do we have reason to trade in that direction? So when you go to the 15-minute, do you have order flow in your favor for longs, or do you have order flow in your favor for shorts? And at the time, so we have this sweep, take out this Asia, take out the daily lows, etc., hit this CPB. We come into the supply, we react from this supply. got the reaction, which means the reaction leg, the failure, and then we respect the demand. Continues to break supplies, continues to respect demand. So, throughout London, we've just continuously got demand holding basically all the way up. And in terms of targets, we've broken the first piece of the IRL with demand and control. So the idea is you can target the rest as cause for higher prices. And then it's a question of, do you also target the high? Well, the high is a 4-hour high, right? And so to confirm a weak 4-hour high, you'd want 4-hour demand and control, which we don't have. We've got 15-minute demand and control, so we can only really target 15-minute targets. And so, yeah, the extreme, just move this out of the way. The extreme up here, it took liquidity on the 15-minute is part of the extreme of the leg. And so again, whether you want to include this here as part of the IRL to target, given the fact it's right at the high, you certainly could do, but realistically, if you're playing a counter trend move and you're in counter trend anyway, and you've only really got clearer targets down here, it makes sense just to target this, be a little bit more conservative with the target because it's the counter trend, it's the pullback phase. The same way if you were longing in here, you don't know how big it's going to be. You've only really got reference points of the 15-minute, which is this. And so, yeah, playing longs, targeting this. Once this gets taken out, any further longs becomes a little bit more risky. Do you want to immediately dive into shorts? Again, we've got demand and control, so realistically you want to see the opposite happen because we've not hit our H4, we've not hit our daily, and so again we're just playing 15-minute stuff. So I don't really want to dive into 1-minute reversals just because we swept this. I want to see supply and control. Like if we've hit the target, like if this was like this, for example, okay, then maybe 1-minute double confirmations. But because we haven't yet hit it, potential we can still take out this. It makes sense to wait for the opposite to happen. So we've got the reaction to here. So again, further longs can still make sense to target this. It's a little bit more risky because we've taken this out now, but again, we've still got the demand and control, so fine. Get the failure, and then you get this supply flip created. So again, we've not confirmed supply holding until it holds. So again, double confirmations in there for me. Or once it holds and you're playing continuations in this area, you've got your targets confirmed because you've got supply and control. And obviously now it's pro trend. So the IRL and the ERL can be targeted. But yeah, let me go on to the 1 minute. Because there was some nice longs in here. So the initial, obviously this is the first level of respect of the 15-minute here. So a double confirmation here because it's not yet held. Once this held and continued, I'd be happy to place single confirmations in here or in here. Obviously didn't really get one here. Once it came down into kind of the London lull timing, we started to break areas of supply. So you can say that here, from a liquidity standpoint, this low doesn't break this with a body, so I don't want to have this as a structural liquidity low. And just to kind of confirm, the 50-minute zone itself hasn't taken liquidity, and so for me I want liquidity here at the entry point based on the structural liquidity concept. And so yeah, this for me isn't a structural sweep. You can say it's a reactionary sweep, but either way I want to see the structural liquidity taken. So we break this, which is great. We start to come into these little wicks here. So we've got demand and control, which is great. Again, potential entry because you can be aggressive if you don't want to include the structural liquidity. We've already pro order flow. We've got our confirmed targets, so it's safe to play the pullback. We're not just guessing the pullback. We've got a IRL to target, of course, for higher prices. But yeah, missing piece for me, structural liquidity at this stage. But we have demand and control. It's reacting nicely from supplies. So get the reaction, again it's a subtle sweep, failure, again another entry model here without structural liquidity. But then as we continue, demand stays in control, and we've now got this chain. Not only that, we've got structural liquidity available for it here. And so I'm happy to play through this, this here, because obviously we've got demand and control. It's not a supply or anything that I'm worried about selling from. We've got this huge chain. Our targets haven't yet been hit. And so we're following this 1 minute chain. I'm just waiting for the structural liquidity break with the body, creates it here, so an entry here, and then the further break as well, another entry here. So again, without the structural liquidity, you could enter, this is a perfect good entry model. Inclusive of it, these are the ones that I like. Obviously it's not really much difference in this case because it provided anyway, but I'd rather see it always, just to have consistent logic. And then target wise, you know, it's a clear target because you've got a confirmed target. We're not guessing the size of the pullback, whereas this one you kind of are, until obviously, well, you can say this one here, this here. So if you were in long from down here, you'd likely be targeting that. So maybe you'd have just missed it because it didn't quite break it, but anything obviously further once you're in here didn't give an entry, but the idea would be just you've only really got this. So if you were getting long from here, you know, is the risk reward worth it? Because this is the only confirmed target, and then you probably just play it to here, but you can see the difference. Like this is clear confirmed IRL because demand's in control. We're in the pullback phase. It's a decent risk reward for what it is. You know, same with this. You've got this weak low. Again, realistically, you could target bigger because it's the pro trend on this one, but at least this is confirmed. You know, near side target and then the bigger target. So yeah, two good trades. This one I really liked. This was for me the trade of the week so far. Obviously we're only on Wednesday. Let's check the chart. Yeah, and then if I just carry on. So we take out the IRL. Again, if you've you know, there's a few entries along this chain. Now we've broken a 15-minute CPB, we've created a new 15-minute zone here, so I'll just do the same process again, just looking to confirm it. Do we have liquidity for the zone or not? The zone hasn't taken liquidity, we don't have liquidity for the zone. So I'd want it at the entry point, same logic as this. And then from here, we get this little sweep of this low here. Obviously there's nothing here because this doesn't break anything, so again, same way I mentioned down here, doesn't break anything, so I wouldn't say this is, you know, early enticement. In the same way for this, I wouldn't say it. Whereas this, you know, you get the break again with the body, so we get a structural low here. It's nice to see demand holding, and you can kind of see the risk difference. The entry would be here, so again, this one would be a loss. The logic's the same for the entry, the 50-minute zone. The only difference is you've hit your target. So that's the only difference between this trade really, and obviously it might look slightly different, but I mean they're the same. Like you play in the structural sweep, pro order flow. The difference between them is simply the fact we've taken out the IRL that we were targeting. Whereas maybe if this was a little bit higher, then perhaps this would have worked out. But then obviously, you know, it's a loss, fine. Then you've got more information. Okay, we're reacting from this demand. We get the failure of demand. So we've got this 15-minute zone of supply now. You know, again, we've not confirmed supply and control. So do you want to wait for it to hold, or do you want to play double confirmation in here? Obviously, it didn't happen. So now it has taken control. So this is effectively the 15-minute supply holding for the first time. As you can see, we've got a reaction. It shouldn't be the reaction, like the failure. We've come back, held supply, and we've continued. So now, let's say we're here somewhere. We've got supply in control. We've got downside targets confirmed to us. So we're just filling the voids, basically. And then we've also got ERL. So the same way this sell, we've got the downside target internally would be this, you know, and even this. And the ERL down here. Same way here, this, and the ERL down here because it's pro trend. So yeah, that's something you can play. You don't have to wait for pro trend only or pro 4 hour only. Like, play the pullbacks, because then you can capitalize on both sides. But again, it's from a consistent logic of, do you have cause for higher prices? In this case, we do. You know, we have cause for lower prices, cause for lower prices. So yeah, if we got a continuation model, or if we came back up into, if we had an entry here, it would have been good. And so anything within here, again, these are CPBs because it's IRL now, because we've got supply and control. And if we got something clear here, it would have been nice. We didn't really get too much, to be honest. We got reaction into a supply. The failure of a reaction point, and then continuation of that. Again, I wouldn't say there's an easy way to consistently enter this type of trade, because the reaction, or the initial reaction, is here. So if anything, as a risk entry type, you'd be looking at this. Maybe from a 5 minute it looks different, but yeah, obviously, same thing. If I was looking at a 5 minute entry, I'd be looking at this rather than this. And as a 15-minute zone, again, the reaction, the reaction here with the wick, the failure, I still prefer this. It's not really that clear. It's more of an inside bar, this one, so it makes more sense in that case. But as a continuation model, it's not really something I'd take from here. It's a 15-minute wick zone, you might have got involved. 1 minute confirmation, not really anything there. And then obviously we're late in the day, and then it just takes out the target anyway. So ideally you'd have been in from higher, but I don't think it was the easiest trade to catch, because you'd have had to have basically played the 15 or maybe 5 minute flip. The 5 minute flip without the order flow confirmed in your favor, which is still valid, but it's just a bit more, you're kind of preempting the idea rather than waiting for it to show you supplies in control. And just the fact we're not in this here yet just makes it a little bit harder. But again, some of them might have caught it. Like the entry on the 5 minute looks great. The targets will be the same, they're just not yet confirmed. So yeah, it's a bit more difficult. So hopefully that makes sense though. And then yeah, today, obviously I'm intrigued by this 4 hour. So this low that we had down here on the 4 hour still hasn't broken with a body, so we're still just wicking the lows. So from a structural point of view, we've not really got a confirmed strong high, if that makes sense. It's still a 4 hour supply, it's still the extreme of this move. We've got the reaction to this CPB. It's a CPB, so it should be just giving us a pullback. How big the pullback's going to be, is it just to here, or is it to here, or is it even to that one all the way above? It's hard to tell, which is why it's nice to have confirmed targets. Like I said, you don't know how big the pullback's going to be, but if you've got IRL to target, then you've got an idea, or if you've got a weak high to target, then you've got an idea. And so in this point of view, 15 minute makes things easier. So we just wick all these lows. It's getting a bit messy now. From a 15 minute point of view, structurally this high fails to break the low. Here it would break the supply. We then hold demand a bit messily, but we effectively hold it, because then we continue to break through. And so we take out that what would be a confirmed weak high, obviously prior to getting any chance to capitalize on that, but we've taken out that weak high. Now we've hit this 4 hour, and then from this 4 hour, we kind of had this push down, break of this, and then from here we've mitigated, broken this. Again, to justify the order flow a little bit, last point of demand prior to the mitigation, break it, respect supply. Here continues to break, and so by the time we get this flip, I'm thinking about it as supply on the 50 minute at least in control, coming from this 4 hour pro trend. Obviously we use this CPB to bring us back. Obviously we've got the idea that we can come higher, but if we've got reasons to sell prior to that, then by all means. And so this flip looks really good, but like I mentioned, from a structural liquidity standpoint, it didn't have any. Obviously I like to incorporate it heavily, as you know. This for me isn't a structural liquidity high sweep here, because this doesn't break anything. This flip doesn't sweep structural liquidity, it's just subtle sweep, which again, the entry model is good, but it's missing that component of structural liquidity for me. So for me to play this flip, I want to have some liquidity taken here. So in this case, this 1 minute mitigation, okay, we break some little areas here. It's not a structural piece because all the highs of the body, so all the highs of the candle, the high in the last, so we've not had it. So the only available option from a structural liquidity point of view would be the high itself. So break that with the body. So this slash this, but this is the extreme of that initial reaction here. So sweeping this, valid structural sweep. So now if we get entry models now, I'd be happy to take them. Effectively, you can justify this as the chain above that flip as well. So let's just mark that up, such as this. So again, you know, if this goes long from here, then fine. But for me, there's nothing to suggest that it will. The only thing we could say that it could is because of the fact the 4 hour high here fails to break the low, so it could be weak. But we've not got demand in control, so I don't want to suggest that it is. I don't want to guess that it is. I don't want to guess how big the pullback phase is going to be either. So for me, we've taken out the weak high that was confirmed, which was this. We've hit this, and I got supply in control. And so if we get entry models here, kind of where we are currently, so basically looking for a flip, post sweep of this, if we get it. So the sweep occurred here, you know, broke these areas, didn't really get an entry of a flip type, kind of reacted from this, basically just hitting this extreme. So if we got something like this is the reaction, and we get the failure of that, then this would be a good entry model for me, because we've got the structural sweep, pro order flow, flip entry, downside targets, etc. And yeah, for me, we could go long, but I'm not looking for long yet, because we've not got I've not got a confirmed target in mind. The only thing I would say with the longs as well, you know, we are obviously in this bullish daily candle, so it makes sense that this bullish daily candle can continue a bit higher rather than switch to all of a sudden a bearish candle. But it doesn't mean we can't come down to here, maybe sprint a small bullish candle and just have a big retracement and then follow through tomorrow. Because also given the fact that the weekly high, or the current weekly high, you know, you could argue it's printed on a Monday. We've already had that, which would be here, rather than this Tuesday low. But again, it still can happen, but I'd rather follow the trend, follow the order flow that we've got. So I'm favoring the sells, and like I say, I'll take a trade if we get it, if we get something in here. And you could argue as well that this is the reaction sweep into the extreme. So if this does fail, obviously it needs to fail first, but then it could make a lot of sense. But yeah, I didn't see any trades besides potentially 1 minute stuff in here, which I didn't love, obviously in London anyway. But yeah, I don't know if anyone caught anything today already, but hopefully this breakdown makes sense. Like I said, the favourite trade so far this week was this long. This was because it's pro order flow, it's got the nice chain, liquidity is available to take on the 1 minute, liquidity is available to target, so you got a clear target in mind. It's just a perfect counter trend trade. Let me just read the chat. One sec. Yeah, that long yesterday, Foxy, I really liked. Yeah, the high definitely could be weak because it's not confirmed as strong. So yeah, it definitely could go. Because we haven't got the man in control, I just don't want to say that it definitely can be weak, because like it's basically weak until it's not, right? So at the moment it looks weak, but because we haven't got the man in control, it's hard to target it. So all of a sudden we could do this, and all of a sudden it's not weak. So targeting through it or targeting past a weak high, I'd want to have demand in control on the same time frame as the high. It doesn't mean that it won't go, like it certainly can, but just to kind of have that logic in terms of taking the trade towards it, I'd want to have demand in control to target it. The same way, like I mentioned with any course for higher or low prices, I want to have demand in control. If I'm going towards this IRL, I want to have demand in control. If supply is in control, I'm not going towards it. Doesn't look like we're going to get an entry here. Okay, we're still in the zone, so we're still in the chain. Yeah, so we'll see if we get something else. Okay, I'm not interested in longs. Like, it could happen. Like, if you want to go long, take a long. I'm just not taking a long right now. But if we get a short, I'm going to take it. Does this entry would have made sense to you? At best, in a minute. Yeah, no, the entry you've got is really good, Quinton. But the only thing, like, it's just missing the structural liquidity. It's the only thing that's missing for me. Like, the flip's great. This flip was great. It's just missing that structural liquidity point of view. So for me, it's not something I want to take. But as an entry without structural liquidity, it makes sense. No cigar so far yet. For the same stuff. So that long, but got break even. What's the day? Wait, which long? Oh, this one. Wait, yesterday or today? Yeah, come in today, right? Must have been yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, for a long perspective, yeah, for sure. This can definitely be a sweep of this. Can't back down. No, I'm sticking with it as long as it stays valid. If we get the setup, just move some of this. What would be cool if this plays out perfect, like I've drawn it. That'd be amazing. But hello, Trickey. First break of substructure. We would need a floor. No, if you've got demand and control marker, like if you've got demand and control, you just play the single confirmation. As long as you've not hit your target yet, or you've still got targets available, then yeah, just follow it. Either get in on the 15-minute entry or play the single confirmation if it's pro order flow. Yeah, so I'll come back to this in a few minutes. Would you wait for structural liquidity and get on the 1 minute now? Yeah, that's kind of why I drew it like this. This being the sweep, effectively, if you can see that. So if we broke this, if we get a sweep, let's say here, either as your entry here because it's pro trend, or wait for the sweep to happen and get involved after it, that'd be good. Alternatively, again, if you don't include it that heavily, structural liquidity, then you could have taken the sell from the flip initially, and you could get involved here straight away. So obviously it gives you more entries. You might take a few more losses, but it's not a problem if you don't want to include it. So basically you've got the flip that's already here now. I might have to just move this because I can't see anything. So you've got the reaction, the reaction leg, the failure. So without structural liquidity, this would be a good entry. So this can certainly play, and then I'll basically just kind of like I mentioned here. Where is it? Without structural liquidity, this would be a good entry. And so I'm just going to wait for something like this, or if the zone sweeps and becomes a liquidity POI itself. So yeah, we'll see how that shapes up. But yeah, without liquidity, this is a great, like the narrative's good, for me, in my opinion. Hopefully you've seen how I've built it and the reasons why. Hopefully that makes sense. Because obviously that's more important. Like the entry is such a minor thing. The main thing is the reasons why you get involved. Do you have targets in mind already? Are they short-term targets because it's a counter trend move? Are they bigger targets because it's pro trend? Have you confirmed those targets with the order flow? You know, things like that. Yeah, no, that's another option as well. Like if you want to just take this and then just cover any potential sweep, you know, big boy huge stop, you could, but again I'd rather just wait. Yeah, for me, Mocha, I wouldn't play long from there because there's no because the 4-hour CPB you're playing from is a CPB, right? So like this, the purpose being a pullback, and so now because we've hit our pro order flow, pro trend 4-hour supply, we've hit our target, and I don't want to target past that or through that. So I mean, you can play it based on 15-minute, but then if anything, I just have 15-minute targets or a very short target, or be a bit more aggressive in terms of getting to break even, because it's a riskier play without any more room to go, if that makes sense. Has it not confirmed? Has it not mitigated the forward demand now? But not confirmed yet. Yeah, definitely. To me, it's one of them because it's so bunched together. Like by the time demand's in control, we'd have probably already taken out that weak high, if that makes sense. It makes it harder to target through it. Like if the price was a bit more stretched out, like a bit more with momentum to the downside, so there's more room before that high, then there could be more room for demand to take control prior to the high getting taken out, which means you could target through it. But by the time it does take control, in this case, it's probably already going to have taken it out. Fin. I took an L on the flip. There's a setup there. Yeah, there definitely was a continuation from that flip. I know most instructional peak concepts. You know, I take the SD reaction sweep model like, as the entry models. So these are always the entry models. These flips that sweep, subtle sweep or whatever. Like this is a flip, subtle sweep entry. Perfectly good flip entry model, right? It's just they're different. Like this is about POI selection for me, Foxy. Like the flip which sweeps is a entry model, or it's a POI selection to trade from, right? The liquidity of structure, like that's about an afterthought. Once the POIs are already there, once everything's already built, have we taken liquidity prior to the trade, like structural liquidity? In this case, as a sweep flip, this makes perfectly good sense because it's a flip from this with the subtle sweep of this, the failure. So as a entry without structural liquidity, this would be a really good entry. But for me, just from my testing over the years, like it's a great entry, but it's missing that consistent, repeatable logic of incorporating like liquidity, in a sense that, okay, some trades get swept, some trades don't get swept. Put some logic behind that in a consistent manner. It's not easy to do or create. And so the structural liquidity concepts that, you know, been built obviously took a lot of time, but it's a way to have a repeatable process of trading without worrying about the sweep, because you're basically having the sweep, if that makes sense. In this case, this one is a good example of it having the sweep now, because this didn't sweep, so okay, this gets swept. Now we're looking for the entry. And so now you're playing the same entry, let's say from here, or if you had this flip here, the entry would be the same. It's a flip, but now we've taken structural liquidity. So for me, it's just a much safer, much better entry, because now I'm not worried. Like if we had an entry here, I wouldn't be worried about getting swept, because we've already just swept. And so yeah, this is obviously playing out from so far from this. And so now, basically all I'm looking for is a sweep. So similar to what I was mentioning here. Perfectly good entry without structural liquidity. With structural liquidity, where's our available structure? We've got this piece, because it's broken with the body. We've got this piece, because it's broken with the body. So if we sweep one of those, don't care which, break the last point of demand to confirm the sweep. I'm just getting in, market execution here, cover the high. And so the same way, if it happens a bit lower, same thing. So if we're reacting from this, if this turns into a CPB, which it probably should, because we've got supply on the 1 minute in control. So you can see how the concepts are the same depending on the time frame. We've broken 1 minute demand, we've held 1 minute supply, we've got 1 minute supply in control. So this should be a CPB. So if this fails effectively, which it looks like it will, have we got another structural piece we can use? This is pivoted back with the body, so now we've got a third piece we could use. So then if you want to pick a POI above that, probably this, you can do, and just play it anticipating this sweep. Or if you want to wait for the sweep to happen, again, react to the sweep like this, be great. But hopefully you can see the difference, they're really, in terms of collecting data, you can still take these trades, is what I'm saying. You don't have to incorporate the structural liquidity as heavily if you don't want. You can just collect data on it. Okay, you've got one entry here without it, which was a loss, one entry here without it, which was, obviously it looks like it's at least a break even, so it's playing out nicely, and just collect data over time. But the narrative to get to that point is always the same, regardless of whether you use it or not. Just 1 second, just plug my laptop in. But yeah, hopefully, I say the narrative is always the most important. And people obviously, when you think about my trading, they probably think about structural liquidity. But for me, I always think my biggest strong suit is the narrative building. That's kind of what I think about myself with my trading, if that makes sense. It's having that consistent, why are you targeting where you're targeting, why are you getting in the first place? Why would I be looking for shorts here in the first place, regardless of whether the entry took liquidity or not? Why am I looking here? Or why would you look here? Or why would you look here? Why would you avoid, wherever? Why would you not long from here? Makes sense. Oh yeah, Zalo, yeah, that's bang on. Yeah, the POIs sort of sweep, yeah, that'd be ideal. Whether the structural liquidity is on the 1 minute or 15, I don't care. I really don't care. Just as long as it's prior to the trade I get in. So the entry or the POI selection from a subtle sweep flip, bang on, absolutely slap that. But if now the demand fails, you wouldn't look for confirmation if price comes back. Wait, which one? This? No, because this is the 15-minute, right? We're playing out of this. So anything that isn't this is additional confirmation anyway. So if I get an entry on the 1 minute here, obviously you can say that, okay, you should have this as your stop. That'd be the safest place, but obviously it's not realistic. You want to capitalize on a smaller stop slightly. Like if you get a 1 minute entry, again, when you're getting used to the 1 minute entries, like let's say for argument's sake, it does come back to this, and you get in here, you could just have it here, right? But if you're new to the 1 minute and you've come in from a 15 minute, just start off doing this. Because now you're still taking the 15 minute, you're still being safe, the same position you would be if you took 15 minute entries, but you're just confirming it. Obviously you might miss out on a slight bit of profit, but you've confirmed the zone, stop loss is in the same place as it would be, and then when you get more comfortable, then you can start to, okay, I'm more comfortable now, I'm going to start doing this with my stop. So it's a way to kind of get used to the 1 minute a little bit. Plus, if you've got a 15 minute zone, like it's not, the 15 minute isn't always that clear. Obviously in this case it is, but sometimes it's not. So confirming it actually kind of helps clarify sometimes. Got a question on that subject, but couldn't figure out myself. Crude oil news is restricted by FTMO, but no, with the FTMO restricted news, like it's only the symbol of the news that you need to worry about. Like if you've got dollar or pound news, then obviously don't trade GU. But if you've got oil news, obviously you still might get some volatility and whatnot, but you won't be banned by FTMO for trading through it in a GU trade, if that makes sense. Currently on the data analysis phase of the roadmap. Some tested forward trades, but a big portion during New York. I only trade. Okay. Do you recommend me to still look? For commonalities between those trades. Yeah, no, I think you could definitely still collect data for both. Like I don't trade London at the moment. I have done it at times, and I will do again at times. So like let's say if I go to Bali tomorrow, which I'm not, but if I was, I'll probably trade London for a little bit while I'm there because of the times, right? So like I want to still have a data-backed edge for the times that I'm going to trade. Just because right now, where I'm in Spain, I'm trading New York. I might not always be. Do you know what I mean? So I want to always stay in tune with both sessions, data-wise, follow the flow of it. But again, it depends what you want to do with that. But I think it's still definitely worth having data for both, because you might even find that your style of trading, it might be 10 times better in New York than it is London. You might be like, okay, well maybe I should try and trade New York instead, or or vice versa. Cheers, fam. Just have an early component. So send me a DM. Okay, man. Take care. I'm using the same concept I'm using it, but it let us to be mechanical about the approach of time. I like it. Recently I've been thinking to it, and I was kind of doubting about the fact to use strategy on their own, because someone probably would choose. But what would be the cost? So I said something. Yeah, I mean, like I say, if you're not having structural liquidity, it's not a problem. Just collect data on it. Like, is it worth not having? Because over time, the losses that you do take are outweighed by the winners anyway. If you do incorporate it, does the losses that you save, is it worth it? For me, mentally it is. So not even just mathematically, like we're not robots, so like mentally, I'd rather have that slightly higher strike rate, even if it's the same reward, percent-wise or whatever. Same like risk of ruin, losing streaks, things like that. Like we're not gonna trade the plan we have to a T perfectly. Like it's gonna be really hard to do that. So the plan's data might work out mathematically perfectly over time, but then if you can't trade that effectively, then it's not gonna be the outcome of it, right? So like for me, structural liquidity just helped me massively for that reason, which is why I incorporate so heavily. I'd rather miss a few extra moves, knowing the ones I do take are like the really high probability trades. Because most of the time you get the opportunity anyway. Like this could easily just come back. Like we're sweeping this now. And so yeah, if we come up to here, I'll be looking for the same trade. Like I say, in this case, it had one without, one with. Sometimes it may not have this one, and I may miss the move, but a lot of times it does. Thanks, Alex. I'm clear. Thanks, mate. Fair one. I'm gonna pass over to Aaron before he falls asleep. Obviously, we can come back to this or talk about this as well, but I've taken up a lot of time, so we're gonna go over EU or AU because I've talked for over an hour. Let's take the GU entry. Yeah, still interested. It's like the only thing that kind of puts me off a little bit, but it's not going to put me off taking it. I'm still going to take it if it comes. Would be the fact we've swept this structural liquidity, broken the demand, so the supply. We've now got this structural liquidity POI. But again, from a logic point of view, I'm not wanting to guess that we're going to take this high out. It could happen. This could play long, and the sell would be a loss. But for me, there's more logic behind the sell. Supply is in control, and the higher time frame supply is in control. This is a confirmed CPB. The weekly candle, weekly high, sorry, of the week so far is still intact from the Monday. So I'd rather take the sell. Yeah. But I will pass over to Aaron. And I'll come back. Aaron, are you there, by the way?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, cool.
Weekly time frame, let's just build the story from the right. If you've been watching all of these calls and outlooks and whatnot, then you'll know the reason why I'm just looking at stuff here, because all of this is irrelevant for now. So yeah, weekly time frame, what can we draw from? So we had this reaction here to this area where we had that initial shift, and then the chain eventually held, because we came into it here, we swept this level into it, but this demand here was holding until obviously last week, where we managed to push through, and then this week we have broken this low now. So overall, like it looks really nice, and this is what we was talking about for a while, where this was like either the impulse to then do this, or this was come down to something here. Then this was the flip, reaction, break, and then looking for demand to hold here to then push to the upside. Obviously, the former has come to fruition. So this week's basically the, I can't remember if we did a take note, let me just move. Yeah, so early in the week on Monday, it was about, because we had taken out all of this, it was about, can we get into any longs to then get short, which will become clear on the H short pretty much, to then take out this low. And then once we take out this low, it's just waiting again to see new structure and all the floats sort of develop on the H short. Daily time frame, much of the same. So this was that demand chain on the daily that we've been speaking about, where this was either going to hold and push the upside, but then what eventually happened, we took out all of the IRL and then pushed to the downside. So we had this sort of, let's call it order flow shift here, unconfirmed. And then you can see this week all we've done thus far is Monday we pushed down, Tuesday we pushed down, and then we got sort of, we're getting a bullish reaction today. In terms of what else can we draw from the daily time frame, really not much. On Monday, I was sort of anticipating maybe longs up into here to then go down, or longs maybe take out some IRL before going down, but that didn't happen. We just pushed the upside, came into nothing, and then it continued lower. Today there's not really too much else to talk about on this time frame, at least. What's happening to the left? I mean, realistically, the only piece of liquidity now is this, and then obviously the low's down here, and then the lowest low, which was printed back in October last year, so maybe we'll eventually take that out. Oh, actually, that's the lowest low of that leg there, but this is the actual higher time frame range ruler down here, which was printed in October 2022. So who knows, maybe in October this year we'll take out both the October lows. A little while to go yet. H4. Didn't think that was that from last week. Where was he then? Yeah, coming into the London session. What I spoke about just a second ago. Overall, we've taken out all of this liquidity here on Friday. So then on Monday, I was looking again for those longs up into something in here to then either come to the downside or take out this level and come to the downside, or yes, the other scenario is if this failed, then you'd have to be aware of demand here. Basically just don't my outlook again. So exactly the same things. So hence the reason for the one local trade I take out this week on this pair. So I was doing my outlook, I think it was at silly o'clock in the morning around this time. And then I was going to play tennis I leave my house at 5:45. So the narrative is for longs. The first sort of inflection point, at least, would be this. Oh. Is it? Yeah. That being sort of the whole range, but obviously I'd like to see price come up higher into that. We haven't hit that yet, and we're trading away from sort of high time frame sweeps here. On the 15-minute, it played out quite nicely in terms of how it developed before I got to the charts. So we had this flip, we swept that, and now these were either breaks to then supply hold and continue down, and maybe take out this low, or a sweep to then continue higher. So obviously, if you wanted to see supply hold, you would have wanted to see supply hold, but we had this reaction. And then there wasn't really a clear sort of demand here, so I just went with this, just as there was a clear movement into the area which it reacted. It's probably clear on the 5-minute actually. Yeah, so this area here. And then we've taken liquidity, we've got a chain, demand's in control, we're trading away from higher time frame, ERL. So I thought to myself, I'm just going to place my entry on here on M15 and then target sort of the range above. The initial targets would have been around 3R, and then holding maybe a little bit to run, just in case we push all the way up to the upside, take out that H4/daily inside bar. So I set that entry and then left my house, and then by the time I got back, I think it was around just after this candle here, and at that point I moved to break even. Once I got back, and then we just ended up coming down, taking me out for break even. And then because we didn't really come into anything on the higher time frames, I wasn't really interested in looking for the shorts personally, because although we had the demand reaction here, it swept, we start pushing down. I know what happens after we do push down, but we did come into this. The only thing I could really justify on my end of the day, and when I was looking at the end of the day, so this is that internal higher time frame low, and then obviously you have the one down here. The only sort of complements I could see that potentially could get in the trade and something I might type and more going forward is this wick here, so this high, is the decisional point that broke this H4 low, and we ended up sweeping out the demand reaction. It fails. So technically speaking, if supply starts to hold from here, which it does, oh, not good. Sorry, it was lagging. I didn't mean to push it that far forward. Which it does, then yeah, trading to the downside would make sense, and then sort of on the M15. Especially this entry here, where we had demand reactions, sweep here, we were taking liquidity to the left, we got a supply chain. Everything's here, apart from sort of a higher time frame mitigation. So it would make this trade valid. I didn't take this one. I mean, this wick may have put me off in a live market. I wasn't even looking at the charts because I had my alert set up and around this region. So this would have been, wherever you want to put your stop loss, either way would have run for a decent amount of R. So yeah, this being the only actual one where I'd look for a 1M trade, this one's in Asia. So the only reason I set this trade is because I'm leaving the house. And the order flow was there, so I wouldn't have, if I was at the charts, I would have waited for the Lachlan session really to kick in. And then yeah, pushing to the downside, you have supply hold. I wouldn't really look for 1M trades here just because it's not really from some sort of hard time frame area. I don't actually think there was anything within that point. No, there wasn't. So it just came into it and pushed away. And then by the time it came back here, it was the London low. And then the only real area to look for a 1M trade would be here. And then, what did we get? So we came into it. Oh, wait, there was a 15-minute IRL sort of sweep here, yeah. I mean, a little bit challenging. Get an entry here, especially because I don't really like wick breaks. We had the wick break and then we broke. There's no real flip here up in this region. First sort of flip comes here. But obviously it never came back to that area. And then they had all these flips down here. If you trade the 1 minute continuations, maybe you got some of your kids, target this low. But yeah, I think for me, if I was to do anything here, would have been on a 15-minute because of those reasons. And then yeah, we had the clear sort of range, reaction, sweeps, chain from that sweep there, and then yeah, push to the downside. But yeah, that would have been real Monday for me, and then nothing's really been done since that. Tuesday, absolutely diddly squat, because we're taking out all of the higher time frame lows. There's no H4 POI, no sweeps to continue to the downside. There's no shift of order flow to the upside. There's no 15-minute POI apart from this one here. All we've done is stay between this low and the high up here and just range sideways until we eventually took out the low quite late in the afternoon. And yeah, that was it. And some days you're going to get that. And all I done on that day was set my alert up here and price never came back. I don't know if anyone else found anything on that day, but yeah. And then today, still pushing to the downside. Scenarios I had mapped out this morning, if we're in it, where we've come out of an impulsive range, a higher time frame range, we might sort of mirror something here, and then in sort of the initial stage, you could just keep impulsing down and at least take out like these levels before like a significant pullback, because we had been trading sideways. I mean, it doesn't look like sideways there, but when you look at on these higher time frames, we've been very corrective. That this, we could just keep impulsive. Oh. So one of the sort of things that I'd look for would be some sort of H4 sweep or POI. So this would have been a valid sweep to trade. But then you also have to be aware of, okay, we've taken out one of these lows. This could also be a shift and then continue to the upside. Let's go to here. So at this point in time, you sort of have, I guess, mark up this POI here, and then we can also look to trade the sweep if it materializes. We're taking out there, I'd need to see this fail, and then at that point we'd already be in the H4 POI, so end up just reacting to it and then continuing higher. And then you can look to try and play this order flow away. I mean, sorry, just a little brain fart. Yeah, we're just coming back to the downside now. What are we coming to? Nothing. So yeah, again, it would have been hard for me to trade anything here because, like I said, once we'd taken out this level here, for me, the higher probability would be coming to the downside, but if not, wait for the 4-hour POI to be tapped into and then trade to the upside, because this could all just be liquidity, then we come into this region and then go up. Alternatively, we just start to shift back to the downside and continue. Is there any potential trades in here if you just look to play this order flow? Don't really come into anything keen apart from these wicks. Which is only wouldn't. Not something I'd look to be taking. Yeah. The nicer stuff comes here, but at that point in time, this isn't even the POI. This is, so we just end up ranging around all throughout this session, and then yeah, I mean there's potentials for it to continue now after this sweep, but we're still just sweeping these highs here, so I mean this could end up just closing like this and push to the downside. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I think it just requires a bit more patience and potentially get some more either continuation to the downside in tomorrow and Friday, or if we start to see demand hold, we might get a deeper higher time frame pullback. I'm not too fussed which one really, because I have good narrative for both. Is this just going to mirror here and we push to the downside, or is this just going to, this could still close as just a wick of this low and finish the week maybe somewhere up here? You don't know. So yeah, you haven't got any questions on that, or? Makes sense. That's good. Thank you. Very awesome. Did anyone have any other questions for myself or Tricky? I'm interested in EU today. I haven't really been looking at it, to be honest. No interest in that. we swept that low, probably expect a sweep of this high at the very minimum. It's my kill zones. Here we go. Yeah, that's not great. Potential longs from down there, I guess. Sweep of H4, M15, unconfirmed, confirmed shift. And we push back down. This looks nice. I mean, from an M15 standpoint, that's pretty good. Have reasons to trade higher. I'd have been targeting this, it would have been minimum. Maybe is there something down here? No, it would have been tough to get in there. Unless you entered on the top of this range, you covered all the way down here. But yeah, no interest on EU today, or this week at all. Anything else from anyone now? Alex, was there a question you wanted to come back to, or we wrap up?
No, I think I answered everything. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a good call today. First time back on a Wednesday. So
Yeah, it felt strange.
yeah, hopefully everyone likes the new schedule. I talked about it a little bit before you came in at the start.
Oh, wicked.
But yeah, if there's nothing else, guys, we could wrap up. See you back in the Discord, and then yeah, see you later in the week. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.
Awesome. Have a good rest of your week. Ciao.